Commissioner Lawrence.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of the August 13th, 2013 meeting was provided to the commission. At this time, I'd ask if there were any questions, or do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I read the minutes, and I move to approve them as written.
We have a motion to approve. Second by Mr. Randolph. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically dispensed by vote as approved and/or as per staff comments. Items pulled from the consent calendar shall be discussed and voted upon individually. Staff, do you have any comments to that?
No, sir, nothing to pull.
None. I bring it to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull the Colonial Pinnacle Nord-Delac subdivision from the consent calendar, really to make a comment about it.
Are there any other, Commissioner Davis?
Yes, I'd like to pull entering rights, parish right-of-way servitudes, easements on Ward 4, District 7, Lamarck Street. Entering parish right-of-way
servitudes and easements. It's the last one on the consent.
Lamarck Street.
We have a motion to, do we have a second for pulling these two?
Do we need a
So
second for
moved? And we're going to amend it. So moved.
I moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move Colonial Pinnacle or to pull Colonial Pinnacle and entering parish right-of-ways. Please vote to amend the agenda. Motion passes.
Need a motion to approve the consent calendar, absent those
Do we have a
two.
motion at this time to remain in consent as amended? Motion by Mr. Richard, second.
Me.
By Mr.
Mr. Willie.
All in favor, please, or please vote. Motion for the amended consent calendar passes. Colonial Pinnacle Nord-Delac subdivision, Ward 1, District 1, amount $1,140,000, expires October 12, 2013. The debtor, Nord-Delac JV LLC, Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
The above referenced performance obligation expires October 12, 2013, and is scheduled for review by the Planning Commission at the September 10, 2013 meeting. The work covered by this obligation has not been accomplished. The following uncompleted items exist: asphalt pavement for access drives, concrete curbs and gutters, additional pond excavation. The performance obligation was established by the Planning Commission on September 14, 2010, and has been extended for 6-month increments since that date. The developer will be advised that he will be required to conform with all current ordinances when applicable as a condition of this extension. The developer has been notified by the Department of Engineering on July 3, 2013, to submit a letter explaining in detail why an extension of time is needed for this obligation. A copy of their reply is enclosed. Therefore, it is recommended that the performance obligation be extended for a period of 6 months or until the uncompleted items have been completed.
Thank you. Anyone from the public care to speak on this? Seeing no one, I close the floor. Bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Matthews?
Well, the three things that were left incomplete could have been serious items. We asked for a detailed explanation, and I really want to commend Colonial Pinnacle because we got a detailed explanation that makes a lot of sense and explains exactly why they've done what they've done and how they've done it with maps and everything else. This is what we expect these developers to do, maybe not quite to this extent, but I sure would like to see something approaching this in the future. And if we don't get this kind of feedback from the developers, I don't know exactly what we can do, but we ought to do whatever it is we can do, because this shows you what they can do if they try. And I really want to commend these people, and I wish they had a representative here, because I would like to bring them up and commend them for that. But this, I think, is exactly what we need, and I would move to extend for 6 months the performance obligation.
So moved, second by Mr. Randolph. Please vote. Motion carries. Entering parish right-of-ways, servitudes, and easements. Entering parish right-of-way, Lamarck Street, Ward 4, District 7. Request to enter parish right-of-way for the purpose of gaining access to property. Petitioner is Charlene Berry, Parish Council District Representative, Honorable Jacob Groby. Staff?
I'm looking for the letter in the packet. They're basically asking to build about 300 feet of road to access property. I don't see a letter in the packet.
What are they doing? Why are they doing
The entering the right of way. No, the Lamarck. Yeah, I'm not sure why there's no letter in here. That's probably why you pulled it.
Okay, well, I really have a question for staff about this matter, too. Just looking at the map that was provided in the pamphlet, it was kind of vague on exactly where this was talking about. Is this at the end of Lamarck Street, north of LeBar? Is that the area we're talking about that's circled? Or maybe if Ms. Berry is here? Would you come up just so I could ask you a couple of questions? And again, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to figure out exactly where this property is at.
Okay.
know what we're doing there.
It was 6 lots altogether. The one on the street was sold, and it's the 4 lots but behind that. It's like 6 lots. There's no road there. I need a road to get to my lots.
Okay, so it's at the very end of Lamarck Street, past LeBar? It's north of LeBar?
Right,
North of LeBar, where the road currently ends now?
yes,
So you
And then I
want
wanna
another
get-
additional 300
Right.
feet? And that is your property?
yes.
Okay. Now, does your property go all the way back up to, I see another street up there, Minor Street?
No, I just.
Okay.
Okay.
That was my question, because I didn't know whether or not you would have access from both sides, that's
No,
all.
I think they've already developed, someone has put a road back on the other side.
Okay.
I just want to meet the road.
Okay. Okay, all right. I'll make a motion to approve.
I-
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, thank you.
Well, not so much you, man, but staff, I questioned, after reading this, I couldn't figure out exactly what we were doing, why we were doing it, and where exactly it was. We need a little bit more information, I think. They're gonna put 300 feet of road in, so they're gonna have 300 feet in our right-of-way?
Yeah, approximately 300 linear feet of road in our right-of-way.
Okay, where is our right-of-way? I don't understand that.
If you see Lamarck Street on a map, if you just projected that straight across the Bar Street.
Mr. Mandela, do we have,
Okay,
Oh, it's between Destin and LeBar. It's not north of LeBar. It's an actual portion that there is no road at all right now.
okay, so this is
Okay,
going to be
so
an
that's-
extension
That's
of
what I
Lamar?
wasn't, it's this way, right here. See, it's right here.
do we have any opposition to this, Mr. Mandela?
So you're gonna join both ends of Lamarck? Right.
Ma'am, if you would come to the podium, please.
Sorry about this, but I'm just trying to find out where this property is at.
And if you,
It's on Destin and Lamarck. There's only half the street is cut through.
Okay, so
And
you're
I
gonna
wanna cut it
continue it
through.
all the way to LeBar?
Well, part of, yes,
Ma'am,
it's,
ma'am, please, if you're going to speak, please
You'd
come to
come
the
to the
podium
podium.
and
She
identify
may
who
be-
you are and your
They may be
address.
opposition. That's what I was asking, was there opposition to this?
Right,
No.
you-
Yeah,
Please,
No, I'm not worried about opposition right now. I just want to find out where this piece of property is at. So I'm looking at the map now. I'm looking at Destin Street. So you're saying where Lamarck hits Destin Street, there's a portion already built north of that, and then you're adding an additional 300 feet.
I'm cutting a 300, I want to cut a 300 feet in.
Okay, and then that 300 feet in, will that join LeBar Street to the other side of Lamarck?
I don't know. I just know where my lot is, there is no street. And it's on Lamarck and Destin, the corner of Lamarck and Destin.
I'm looking at Lamarck and Destin now. But there's no street.
Right, there's no street there.
So what I'm saying is, are you going to build the road between LeBar and Destin the entire way through for where Lamarck currently sits?
Lamarck, it goes all the way, and then it stops. There is no street.
Right.
There is a street there, but it stops where the property is. It stops, and then there's another street parallel to it.
I tell you what I'm gonna do to satisfy me.
Okay.
And probably to satisfy the rest. Can I come show you this map?
Yes.
Staff, is this an extension of Lamarck? Is that what we're doing?
Yes,
Okay, so it's going to be a public road.
yes,
Okay, so she's going to build the extension of Lamarck,
correct. It'll have to be to parish standards.
up to parish standards and everything, okay? That's what, I couldn't tell from this what was happening.
Okay, and here's Lamarck. Right. Are you talking about you're gonna build the road here? The whole entire way?
So we're getting a free public.
Okay, there's a private road here, so you're gonna, okay, but so this will not connect to this private drive?
Supposedly, there is a street there, but they did it themselves, so they made it a private road.
How is that gonna how's that gonna work?
I just know
No, I understand. I just don't know the rationale.
At least now we know what we're doing after opposition.
Commissioners, bear with me on this. If you look at your, the plot and shows the map that we have, it looks like if you follow Lamarck Street and go straight up to Destin, where it intersects with Destin, then there's a private road from Destin heading north. The young lady is requesting for that road to be extended north from that point to LeBar Street, which would be a road that's built to parish standards, correct?
Correct.
But then the private road below it is not built to parish standards, is that correct?
Is that a private road or is it?
I don't know, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
asking you.
It's probably, I know there are a few gravel roads around there. It may be a gravel road in our right of way that we may or may not maintain.
But people will now be able to drive completely down Lamarck and go between Destin and LeBar using a private and a public road from now on, is that correct?
I'm not that familiar with this project to know if it'll,
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not sufficiently familiar with this project to know the extent. I haven't seen any plans from them to know
Okay,
exactly what
I'm
they're
confused.
proposing.
Okay.
if you wish to speak, come to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Peggy Dietrich. I live on Destin Street, right at the point where we're talking about. So my house faces Destin. So on the side of me is the wooded area that is no street right now. On LeBar is a private road that a person maintains herself. It's her private road to get to her house off LeBar by the wooded area. And then, so what they want is to put from Destin to go back, but it's not gonna join her private road, I don't think. I think it's just gonna give them access to their property. I don't think it's gonna make a full-through street. That's what we wanna know, too. That's our concern, is kind of.
That was my concern, is
Yeah.
is this gonna be a continuance of a road, and we're gonna have a situation where we have a private drive going to a
That's-
public drive, and then anybody could drive down it?
That's kind of what
my
our concern. We just kind of want to know. It's not that we're opposed, we just kind of want
Right.
to know all these
No,
things,
no,
too.
well,
And how
good
it's going to
point.
affect, there is a creek runs through that property back there, too. Is that going to affect our drainage? That kind of things. So we just have some questions, that's all.
Okay. Any comments?
I do.
If they try to cross Little Bayou Castine right there, that's gonna be a challenge. There's a significant amount of water that goes through the canal between LeBar and Destin.
Pierce, we don't really know what they're gonna do. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't have any plans from them yet to see exactly where they're gonna stop the road.
I have a
We
question.
approve this, we're approving it without any plans, and we're approving it without staff really knowing what they're doing.
They'll have to follow parish requirements with whatever they
But we don't
construct.
know whether they're gonna incorporate a private road or not. I mean, it sounds like we're all pretty confused on this to me.
Could I-
Commissioner Casabon, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Staff, are we looking at, and I think I picked up on what the lady was saying, is that, is this a landlocked situation where the land in front has been sold and you cannot get to this property unless this road is finished? So at that point, is that correct? Or you don't know? If it's a landlocked situation,
That'd be my understanding.
that's where I'm interpreting it as a landlocked situation, which we cannot deny someone could get to their property. And of course, if it's at Parish standards that they have to be held accountable for, then and the private road is in it, we really don't have the legal right to keep them from getting to their property, and it has to be done to Parish standards.
But Martha,
And they,
we-
yes,
they have to be allowed access,
correct?
but not any access they want, any place that they want. They can be allowed access if the landowner that has them blocked in can dictate the most convenient way
Is there
for
any
him.
other, if it's landlocked, my interpretation is somebody lives around it, and and financially, there's only 300 feet that she's asking for to be built to standards, then I think if there's another way around it, to me, this would be what in other words, I don't think that she would look for the most expensive way or way to get to it, that
But-
300 feet.
But it might not be the most convenient way for the landowner.
I think we're dealing with, and we need to let them present this, that we grant them a right-of-way. Let the parish decide if this is an appropriate and how they do it, that if they can't go through the waterway or whatever, they will be told that. But I don't think it's this commission's thing to come up with and look at plans and say, this is where you're gonna put your road.
Well-
I think that what they're asking for, we either grant it or we don't grant it. But in this case, I'm seeing it as a landlocked situation that they need access to their property. This is the closest, whether you think it's the best or not. To me, it would be that they would go the cheapest route. And I think putting an undue burden, if they could go around to the back way and 1,000 feet to get to their property, if there was another way. I just think this is a cut and dry. This is someone trying to
But
get
Martha,
to
these
their
are all
property.
questions that we do not have answers for.
No, and Martha, as attention, my question is not to grant this. My question is the piece of property, 300-foot of road going to adjoin the private drive that separates Destin and us? And if that comes up, does that then allow people to drive both of those roads to go in between Destin and LeBar Street? That's all.
It's all connected, and
Well-
that's what I'm saying, to get to a private road.
So
If
we
it's
can have private roads and public roads connected to each other?
We have private roads coming off of public roads.
Right, coming
What
off
we
of
would-
public roads.
What they would have to do is come off of public road to build or a public right-of-way and build, from existing public road up to where they're gonna stop. Whether or not that connects to a private road would be a separate issue. But they
Okay.
would have to come off of a publicly open road and then go to where they're stopping.
Paul, correct
Okay.
me if I'm wrong, but this is in fact an old dormant subdivision. This whole
Correct.
parcel, all this property back there was laid out back in the
This
twenties.
is Town of Mandeville subdivision. I
Correct.
believe it was platted in 1918.
Right, so these are public rights of way.
Correct.
They have the ability, they have the right to enter that public right of way. But they need to come to the parish to get permission to go into the right of way if they're gonna construct anything. And that's why they're here tonight, to ask permission from the parish to enter the right of way for purposes of constructing approximately 300 feet of roadway to access their lot.
And I agree, I don't
Mr.
have a
Davis,
problem with
Commissioner
that.
Davis, Mr. Lawrence's light is on, and he will be recognized.
If I could for just a minute. Well, if we get the staff's attention too, Todd just pulled this up on Google Earth. And if you look at this drawing, you're looking at it void of housing. If you look at Google Earth, that street would be more like a driveway that's right next to the house. Okay? And it just, if you look at it on Google Earth, it doesn't look like, if you make a continuation of Lamarck Street through to LaBar, it's gonna be like driving right down beside somebody's house. Okay?
Side streets usually are near houses.
No, I mean, right next to somebody's house, like the driveway. It would be like going in the driveway of a house.
We have a number of streets like that. I know they weren't anticipating, they may not have been anticipating a road being built when they built it.
So I guess my question then, is that easement right there next to their home? I mean, it's a parish easement as it stands right now. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, I can see it
Okay.
right here. It does appear to be very close to.
Like
I mean, you'd be driving.
5 feet from the house?
Traffic driving right under the window.
Well, the side setbacks are usually 5 feet, so maybe it's close to 5 feet.
Okay.
The road right of way, the road itself would be a little bit, probably closer to the center, so it would probably be 15 or 20 feet at least from the house.
I understand, but that is correct. There is a right-of-way that exists there right now on record.
And you'll see similar roads going on the side of houses in a number of subdivisions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the commission or staff?
I
Mr.
think,
Matthews?
I think we ought to postpone this until we get some information. We don't have enough information to make a real decision in this. Is this the right of way? It sounds like they're gonna be having to cross a private road to get to this right of way. If that's the case, then we can't make it a public road. That really is a private road. We can't decide to make that private road a public road. We may want to, but we can't. But, I mean, I don't know what we're doing here. And Pierce staff hasn't seen any plans. They don't really know what they're doing here. I'd make a motion to postpone this until we get some information about what the heck's
I have a
going
question.
on. I hate voting in the dark.
At this point in time, by granting access to the right-of-way, do they not still have to provide the plans, ensure that they're in full compliance with the setbacks and every other aspect? Right. So all we're doing is granting the right, which is what our obligations would be. Whether it crosses a private road, whether it doesn't, whether the setbacks, all of that is yet to come. That is a future event that has to be approved. Is that correct?
Correct.
By the parish. Engineering will have to approve all the plans, the setbacks, and to ensure that what it is. At this point, there's just a request to take this first step, which is to grant them access to the right-of-way. They can't begin to build, they can't do anything unless they comply with parish code. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Davis,
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
So moved. Second by Mr. Willie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Just as a comment, the information given by the planning department on this for us was very limited in our understanding of exactly what was going to be done.
Motion carries. Petitions and requests, we have none entering the Tammany Trace. TRC 13-09-001, request to enter the Tammany Trace for the purpose of installing conduit for the placement of fiber optic cable along the length of the Tammany Trace. The approximate location of work initiates at the Slidell Trailhead at Neslo Road and terminates at LA Highway 21 east of Covington, Louisiana, in wards 3, 4, 7, 9, and 10, districts 2, 5, 7, 10, 11, and 14. The petitioner, Southern Light LLC, Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Dennis Sharp et al.
Mr. Chairman, we're recommending this
Staff.
case be postponed. Due to the scope of this project and the activities associated with it, the administration needs to review it for additional comments. We have been in contact with the petitioner. They agreed to have it postponed until the next meeting. This is a very large project that, like I say, will cover basically from Slidell to Covington along the entire trace. They're going to be putting in 2 pipes underground that will run parallel with the trace with fiber optics. It'll be constructed in 17 phases, and the approximate timeline for construction will be about 6 months. So it is a large project, and the administration wishes to review it a little more closely and make comment to the petitioner before it comes before this body. The petitioner will present a PowerPoint presentation at the next meeting, which will go into detail of this project at that time.
Thank you. Is there any comment from the public? Hearing none, I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie, postpone. Second by Mr. Matthews. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Motion carries. Revocations, closing review, none. Re-subdivision review, none. Dormant subdivision review, none. Tentative subdivision review, none. Preliminary subdivision review. SD 13-07-003P, Berkshire, Ward 8, District 9. The developer owner, Berkshire Partners, LLC, engineer J.V. Burks and Associates, Inc., Parish Council District Representative, the Honorable Gene Bellisario. Staff?
The preliminary plans and hydrologic study have been reviewed by this office and inspections made of the site. It is recommended that preliminary submittal be approved subject to the following. Show type of material and driveway culvert size charts on subdivision plat and drainage plan. Need legend for BMP on sedimentation plan. Place all-way placard on stop signs at the intersection of Berkshire Drive and Oakley Boulevard. The developers agreed to revise restrictive covenant number 12 to state that the HOA will maintain the detention pond. This agrees with the restrictive covenants in Oakley Place restrictive covenants. A funded maintenance obligation in the amount of $10,000 is required in accordance with subdivision 499 to ensure the repair of any damage to parish roadways resulting from construction activity in connection with the subdivision. Mandatory developmental fees will be required at final submittal in accordance with ordinance 499 since no public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. Department of Planning has comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have some amendments to our proposal, our comments. As you remember, last meeting, they presented, we asked they present a recreational development plan for preliminary approval review process, in which they have done. The original submission for the recreational development plan is in your packet. It said where they proposed to construct a 4-foot wide circular soft jogging path in the middle of the development as part of the Phase 1 project, and to provide a gazebo and health training center in Phase 3. We discussed that issue with the developer. He submitted this morning, which you should have with you now, a copy of the revised amended recreational development plan, which now he will go ahead and not only put in the 4-foot jogging path, he'll also put in the 4 health and training stations, as well as the wooden gazebo, all in Phase 1. He had wanted 18 months to do it from the issuance of the Phase 1 work order. We recommended 12 months for either the that first period of time or the first issuance of a occupancy permit, whichever comes first, which the developer indicated to me that he's willing to do. So I'd recommend approval, subject to the revised plan, with the provision that they complete it within 18 months or before the first occupancy permit is issued, whichever comes first.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Steve DeVerney, representing the petitioner. You first saw this project as a zoning commission back in June. We came in and requested a major amendment to the PUD zoning. The effect of that zoning change, you may recall, we lessened the amount of wetlands being impacted, and we increased the size of our green space. The zoning amendment was unanimously approved with no opposition. We then came back in July and submitted the exact same plan for a tentative review. Same thing, was unanimously approved with no opposition. We're here today with the same plat again. For our preliminary approval, we certainly agree to comply with all the staff's comments, and we're here requesting your approval.
Any other comment from the public? I bring it to the commission. So we have a motion.
You want me to make a motion? All right, I'll make a motion to approve. I don't have a problem with the 18 months, the way our weather is.
The 12.
12 months, you want it 12 months? Okay.
Yeah, that was
That's what I'm
amended-
asking. I had no
amended
problem
to
with the
12.
18.
Or
Or
occupancy
occupancy
permit, whichever
permit.
comes first, yes.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Second? Second by Commissioner Davis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Final subdivision reviews, none. Proposed amendments to ordinance 499, none. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Do we have a motion to adjourn?